I have been friends with this woman for well over 17 years. While we live very far apart, we have kept in contact over the years and have been very close. She really has been my dearest and best friend. We both got married to different people, and I got a divorce 5 years ago. She has just divorced recently. It was a very painful divorce for her and her 3 kids. Her ex-husband was a hurtful piece of shit in every aspect. She had a very rough time with him. At one point, she tried to take her own life due to all the abuse. I decided to go visit her for a bit after her divorce was finalized to help her unwind after all that stress. We had a great time together, and then when I was getting ready to go home, she made a love confession to me. Under normal circumstances, I would be very happy about this. However, I'm in the military. Part of the conditions of her divorce is that she has to stay in her home state because of custody of her children and her alimony. I tried to tell her that due to my job, I don't get to pick where I live, or even when I would be home. She wasn't hearing any of it. After returning home, my work has been busy, and we haven't had a lot of time to talk since then. Just some quick, "Hey, how's it going?" and that's it. Last night, I finally had time to call her and talk. I told her that I'm in the military, and that I don't have a say in where I go, when I go. And in some cases, I can't even tell her where I'm going or what I'm doing. I'd be forced to lie to her about where I've been and what I've done. I also told her that there's always a very real chance I could go out sometime and never come home. She might not ever get to know what happened if this were to occur. My stance on all this is, she deserves to be with someone who can be there with her and be honest with her. After all she's endured, she deserves that. She comes back with, "So what? At least I'd get to see you a bit. And if it was for even a year or two, I'd be okay. I don't care what you do. I won't ask." I tried to tell her that I wouldn't be able to provide that well for her or her kids. And she came back with, "I don't care about money. I don't want to be lonely." She went on to again tell me how she lost all trust in men, and that I'm the only one she still trusts. That we've known each other for so long and gone through so many difficulties. She said we've been given a second chance at being together, and we should take it. She then again professes her love for me. At this point, she is crying a ton, and I feel like total garbage. On my side of things, I do care about her a lot. In fact, I'd say I love her too. However, I can't be in a relationship with her. Maybe I have a little bit of an old-fashioned take, but I want to be in a position where I would be able to properly provide for someone. And that means being present, being able to provide them with everything they need and being honest with her. I would want her to feel secure at all times, knowing that her partner would be there to love and care for her. All are things I would never be able to do. Also, I don't know if I'd be accepted by her kids, who are all teenagers, and I don't want to be a point of contention between them and their mom. The biggest issue is she can't leave her home state due to alimony and child custody, and I can't choose where I live, so it forces us to live apart. That's not fair to her. We ended our conversation with her saying the ball is in my court, and I have to make the decision, do I lose all this for the job, or do I risk it and be with her? I think she is so insistent on the relationship because of how bad things were for her, and she needs to feel safe with someone, so she's latching on to me. I feel honored by that, but I know the way my life is, and it will be that way for quite some time. Her and I trying to be together isn't fair to her. I have a bad feeling that I'm about to lose my best friend. During my lowest points, I was able to lean on her, and she helped pull me out of some really dark places. I don't want to lose her friendship, but from the sounds of things, it's a romantic relationship or nothing. How do I try to make this break without losing her completely, or breaking her heart too badly? Some background on the two of us. We've known each other for 17 years. I divorced 5 years ago from a wife who cheated when we were apart, tried to date a little after, got into a relationship for a couple of years with someone who was emotionally and mentally hurtful to me. I've given up on trying since my job gets in the way. I've accepted that I will have to be alone for the foreseeable future. She recently divorced from her ex-husband, who mentally, emotionally, and physically abused her and their 3 kids. She can't leave her home state due to alimony and child custody. She tried dating some guys, but it didn't work out because she says they were only after intimacy. She says she is lonely, but also has given up on dating. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She just got divorced. Her 3 children need to be her priority, not a new relationship. I suspect she is clinging to you because she is afraid to be alone and because she knows you would not abuse her. If there has not been heat or romantic chemistry between you two before, it seems unlikely to develop out of nowhere. But even if she really feels romantic love for you, this is not the time. The kids do not need mom to spend all her time fixating on a long-distance relationship. They do not need a new stepdad. They need her to be stable and independent. This would not be fair to them. And your friend needs to do a lot of healing and reflection before she is ready for a new relationship. This now or never demand just proves she is not ready. She is leading with emotional neediness. Comment 2. The harsh pragmatist in me agrees with you, but the hopeless romantic side wants to see you try. Especially because she has been your best friend for 17 years. I am assuming here that you find her attractive. At least, I would try, if I were in your shoes, and truly love her in a romantic way. And she is into you in more than an I do not want to be lonely kind of way. I understand that the relationship would be different and challenging, but it sounds like that is a risk she is willing to take. I do not know how long you plan to be in the military, or how long she has to stay in her state. The question is, if you stopped worrying about her needs for a second and think about what you want and feel, what does your gut tell you? That would help me give you better advice. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments and support from the last post. It's been a tough couple of weeks. So, things escalated quickly after our last conversation. She started calling me every day, sometimes multiple times, and it was clear she was struggling with loneliness. Her voice would tremble, and she'd often end up crying, telling me how much she missed me and needed me. It was heart-wrenching. Meanwhile, work threw a curveball at me. I was assigned to a new, highly classified operation. The stress was mounting and I was barely sleeping, knowing that I couldn't share any of this with her. It was eating me up inside. Then, out of the blue, she did something unexpected. She showed up at my base. I don't even know how she managed it, but there she was, standing at the gates, demanding to see me. Security was tight, and they wouldn't let her in, of course. I had to go out and talk to her, and it was the most difficult conversation I've ever had. She was desperate, saying she couldn't handle the distance anymore. She wanted to move closer, even if it meant just seeing me for a few minutes every month. But I knew that wasn't possible. Her kids were settled in school, and she had her own life back home. Plus, with my unpredictable schedule, I couldn't guarantee I'd even be around. I tried to explain this to her, but she wouldn't listen. She accused me of not loving her enough, of choosing my job over her. That hurt, because it wasn't about love. It was about the impossible situation we were in. Back at home, her kids were starting to ask questions. They noticed their mom's mood swings and her sudden trip to see me. They were old enough to understand what was going on, and they were upset. They felt like their mom was abandoning them for a guy who wasn't even around. It was a mess. I had to make a decision, and it was the hardest one I've ever made. I told her that we couldn't be together, that it wasn't fair to her or her kids. I explained that my job was too demanding and unpredictable, and that she needed someone who could be there for her physically and emotionally. She was devastated. She cried, begged, and even got angry, saying I was just like all the other men in her life. That stung, but I knew I had to stand my ground for her sake, even if it meant losing her. We haven't talked since that day. She went back home, and I heard through mutual friends that she's been keeping to herself. I worry about her and the kids, but I also know that I did what was best in the long run. It's been a lonely time for me too. I miss her voice, her laugh, and the way she could make any bad day better. But I also know that my life is not conducive to a healthy relationship, and I couldn't drag her into that. I've thrown myself into work to cope with the loss. It's not ideal, but it's all I have right now. I just hope that one day she'll understand why I made the choice I did, and that she'll find happiness with someone who can give her the life she deserves. Thanks for reading. Aita for telling my girlfriend to stay at our friend's house after she drank too much, but then getting mad when she flirted with another guy. Some background. Me, 36-year-old male, and my girlfriend, 30-year-old female, have 2 children and frequently go to our friend's place to socialize, watch movies, hang out, and do whatever. We typically bring our kids with us because our friends also have kids and everybody gets along wonderfully. However, I'm pretty introverted and my social battery can run dry after a few hours. And these social events can last 7 to 8 hours long into the night. There's also drinking involved, and I typically don't get involved much in that, but I'm fine with everyone else having a good time. This has become a sticking point with my girlfriend because she wants to stay until 1 or 2 a.m., and I like to tap out around 10 p.m. and get a decent amount of sleep. Our kids are usually up by 6 a.m. So the simple solution we agreed upon was that we drive separately the next time. That way she can stay and have the extra benefit of not having to wrangle sleeping kids, and we can go home at a reasonable time. So we tried it out and everything was going as planned. The kids and I got home around 10:30 p.m. and I got them ready for and put them to bed. I cleaned up a little bit, got myself ready for bed, and laid down around midnight. About 30 minutes passed, I got a call from my girlfriend where she stated she drank too much and she's scared to drive home. I told her not to worry about anything and suggested she just stay the night at our friend's place. They're more than accommodating. It took me by surprise they actually let her leave. My girlfriend told me she already left and didn't want to turn around, and that she was adamant on coming home. At this point, our daughter came out of her room and was trying to listen to the conversation. So I tried to keep my cool so as to not freak her out. I suggested again that my girlfriend hang up the phone as she's already driving while intoxicated, and to turn around and stay the night. At this point, she began harassing me, calling me names, and most importantly, telling me it's my fault since I drove separately, and she wouldn't be in this situation if we had taken one car. I see where she's coming from. I've been her designated driver on multiple occasions. I've also stuck it out and stayed out until the early mornings, 90% of the time we go out. Am I out of line for thinking an adult mother of 2 should show a little more self-control for one night? Edit. I just wanted to elaborate more on the phone call. I did suggest more than just turning around and going back to our friends, including calling them up to see if anyone was good to grab her, since she was still close by, or even waking our son back up, who was a nightmare to put to bed, and driving 30 minutes to pick her up myself. Why I only typed out one of my suggestions was because I wanted to emphasize she shot all of these down and just wanted to tell me how much I didn't care and how much of a jerk I am. She was absolutely insistent she was coming home herself. Appreciate all the responses, and I agree conversation was the key here. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yeah, definitely 100% not your fault. You are thinking about your mental health and your kids. All she is thinking about is herself and having fun. You tried to compromise and give a valid solution that makes everyone happy. She is a grown adult mother. You should be able to have enough trust in her to be able to take care of herself. If she wants to stay late, drink, etc., she needs to be able to handle herself in that state and make the right decisions. She needs to hold accountability for her actions and do better. Not to be judgmental, but if you can't have trust in her to be able to take care of herself, how the hell can you trust her to take care of her kids? Comment 2. Your girlfriend is in the wrong for driving while intoxicated, but I'm also bothered by your choice to tell her to turn around and drive back to your friend's house. There was a time to have an argument about it, but in the moment, your first priority should have been getting her off the road as soon as possible. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around after my last update. So, the drama didn't stop there. The next day, my girlfriend came home in the morning, looking like she regretted every decision from the night before. She apologized for the mess and for putting herself in danger, but the air was still thick with tension. We didn't talk much that day, just the necessary stuff about the kids and what to have for dinner. It was like we were walking on a tightrope, trying not to fall into another argument. Then, 2 days later, we were back at our friend's place. I know, it sounds like we never learn. But this time, it was different. It was a birthday party for one of their kids, and it was a big deal. Everyone was there, including some people I didn't know too well. My girlfriend was on her best behavior, not touching a single drop of alcohol. But then, our friend, the host, pulled me aside. He had this look on his face, like he was about to drop a bomb. He told me that the night my girlfriend drove home drunk, she actually didn't leave right away. She stayed for a couple more hours, and they had to practically push her out the door because she was flirting with some guy I've never met. They were worried about her driving, but she insisted she was fine. I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't just about the drinking anymore, it was about trust. I confronted her about it when we got home. She tried to deny it at first, but then broke down and admitted it. She said it was nothing, just some harmless flirting. But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. We had a huge fight. The kids were at my mom's, so they didn't have to hear all of it, but it was bad. I told her I needed some space to think. The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone while she was in the shower. I found messages to the same guy from the party. Nothing too incriminating, but enough to confirm they'd been talking since that night. I was furious. Felt like a fool for trusting her. I decided to get my own back in a way that would hit her where it hurt. I knew she was planning to go out with this guy, so I called him. I told him the truth, that she had a family, kids who needed her, and that what they were doing was wrong. I didn't yell or threaten. I just laid it all out, calmly. The guy was shocked. He had no idea and promised to cut things off. When she found out, she was livid, accusing me of invading her privacy and ruining her friendship. But I saw the guilt in her eyes. She knew she'd crossed the line, and now she was facing the consequences. We're still together, trying to work through it, but things are shaky. I'm not sure where we'll end up, but for now, we're taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading this far. It's been a rough few days. Aita for suing my mother-in-law after she stole from us and manipulated her grandfather's will. Me and my new husband's wedding was this Sunday, and it was absolutely beautiful. We've been together for almost 8 years, and I've known his family for that length as well. Everything was perfect, except for this one horrible instance with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, who I'll call Jolene, has always been a flighty, self-absorbed, irresponsible person. She's the type of person that will be sweet and polite to your face, but she holds a lot of grudges over very small things. And if you ever do something to offend her, she'll never forgive you for it. I'm almost certain that she has some sort of developmental or personality disorder, but I'm not a shrink, so it's just an educated guess. One of the ways her narcissistic tendencies materialize is through Facebook. She is absolutely obsessed with Facebook. She can't go anywhere or do anything without posting about it. She's had falling outs with people because of their activity on Facebook that she didn't approve of. So when Jolene showed up at our wedding, she, unbeknownst to me or my groom, already considered my maternal grandmother. We'll call her Rose, her enemy, because apparently Rose didn't like enough of her posts on Facebook. We had the ceremony. The ceremony was gorgeous. And immediately after, it was time for family pictures. When my husband and I were standing up with his parents for pictures, Rose calls out in jest, "Jolene, quit hiding behind groom. You're beautiful." I didn't know it then, but it was this comment that set Jolene off. I heard her mutter a few incomprehensible things while we stood together, so I knew she wasn't happy about the comment, but I didn't know the full extent. We took a few more pictures with his family and a few with mine, and then the photographer asked the wedding party to go to a different location for more pictures, so we left them. We finished all the post-ceremony pictures within half an hour, and then dinner came. When my husband and I sat down with the rest of our guests for dinner, my grandmother came over to us and asked us where Jolene was, because she saw that her comment had upset her and she wanted to apologize to her for the misunderstanding, and that she was just kidding and didn't mean anything by it. I looked around the room and didn't see Jolene. My husband told her that he wasn't sure where she was, but if they found her, they'd let her know that Rose wanted to speak to her. After Rose left, my husband looked at me and told me that after the pictures at the ceremony, Jolene had thrown a tantrum when we left and was currently sitting in the car waiting for her brother to drive her back to the hotel. She missed the entire reception. We had to cancel the mother-son dance. I haven't seen or heard directly from Jolene since we took pictures with her at the ceremony, and it's been over 4 days now. She also hasn't spoken to my husband at all, not via text or otherwise, which is certainly unusual because she normally texts him at least once a day. She posted a few vague, passive-aggressive posts on Facebook the night of the wedding and the day after. Things like, "The most important thing is to be kind," and "I'm so thankful that I got to live with the family I was raised in." But there's been no acknowledgement that her kid just got married. When I went to tag her in the photos from the wedding a couple of days ago, I found out that she's now blocked me and my entire family. She hasn't blocked my husband, however. I texted my sister-in-law, who's closest to Jolene and still lives with her in their family home, and asked what the hell was up. My sister-in-law told me that Jolene apparently feels bad about missing the wedding, but is taking a what's done is done approach to it, and is only considering apologizing to my husband for missing 75% of his wedding. My sister-in-law hesitantly told me that she was sorry, but that I shouldn't be expecting an apology from Jolene because Jolene has never actually liked me because of the Starbucks incident, which, in its entirety, is that 6 years ago while we were visiting, I told my husband that I was going to grab a coffee from Starbucks, and I asked if he wanted anything. I didn't remember my manners, apparently, to ask Jolene if she also wanted anything from Starbucks, and she's held a grudge about it all this time, thinking that I'm a bad person and wasn't raised right. I brought this to my husband, and he says that he loves his mother, but if that she doesn't apologize to both of us, he's uninterested in hearing anything she has to say, and he's unwilling to speak with her for the foreseeable future. I think he plans on trying to slowly restore the relationship if she does end up apologizing to both of us. But frankly, I'm so furious that she took her second son's only wedding and made it all about her and didn't even consider his feelings or how much it might hurt him. She missed a once-in-a-lifetime milestone for him, all because of her vapid, conceited social media presence. Because of this, I'm just considering going no contact with her myself, even if my husband does still want a relationship with her. Right now, I'm planning on doing only the bare minimum with her if he ends up wanting it. Going to Christmas, being civil, but not engaging in any conversation or texting her outside of visits or anything like that. I'm comforted by the fact that this is only even remotely a possibility if she does end up apologizing to both of us. And my sister-in-law doesn't even think that Jolene will apologize to my husband, much less me. How the hell am I supposed to handle this? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Well, it appears that any insult against her, whether deliberate or accidental, she takes to the extreme. She sounds very immature. There's only so much you can do or apologize for before you realize that no amount of trying is going to change her mind. For what it's worth, I am of the mindset to treat others how they treat me. If your mother-in-law openly excludes you and won't acknowledge you at all, then so be it. Comment 2. If it helps, the longer you take her seriously as a person and expect her to behave normally, the longer this drama stays alive. Just accept that she's extraordinarily damaged, that she won't apologize, or that it won't be the kind of apology you want, and cut her out. You don't have to take any of this personally. It's not about you. It's about her. Just let her go. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. Well, things escalated quickly after I last wrote. Turns out, Jolene's antics at the wedding were just the tip of the iceberg. A week after the wedding, my husband's phone buzzed with a message from Jolene. She was ready to talk. We were both anxious but hopeful. Maybe this was the moment we could start mending fences. But when we met up, it was clear she had other plans. Jolene had brought along a man we'd never seen before. She introduced him as her spiritual advisor and said he'd help us communicate better. It was weird, but we went along with it. The conversation started off okay, with Jolene apologizing for her behavior at the wedding. But then, her advisor started asking us about our finances, our future plans, and even suggested that we should invest in some business opportunity he was involved in. It felt like a scam, and I said as much. Jolene exploded, accusing us of being closed-minded and disrespectful. The meeting ended with her storming out and us feeling more confused than ever. A few days later, my husband got a call from his bank. There had been several large withdrawals from his account money we were saving for a down payment on a house. We were shocked. We hadn't authorized any transactions. When we dug deeper, we found out that Jolene had somehow gotten access to his account information and had been funneling money to this spiritual advisor of hers. Betrayal doesn't even begin to cover it. My husband was devastated. His own mother had stolen from us. We confronted her and she broke down, saying she'd been convinced it was for a good cause and that we'd be rewarded tenfold. She was clearly under this guy's spell. We had to act fast. We reported the theft to the bank and the police, but they said it could take time to investigate. Meanwhile, we were out thousands of dollars with no guarantee we'd get it back. My husband was torn about pressing charges against his mother. He still loved her despite everything. I was furious and wanted her to pay for what she'd done. But I also didn't want to push him into a decision he wasn't ready for. In the midst of all this, my sister-in-law dropped another bomb. She'd overheard Jolene talking to someone on the phone about a will. It turns out, Jolene had convinced my husband's ailing grandfather to change his will, leaving everything to her. She was planning to cut out my husband and his siblings completely. That was the last straw for my husband. He decided to take legal action against Jolene, not just for the theft, but also for manipulating his grandfather. It was a huge mess. Family members took sides, and there were arguments at every turn. It felt like our newlywed bliss had been replaced with a never-ending nightmare. But then, in a strange twist, Jolene's advisor suddenly left town. With him gone, Jolene seemed to snap out of whatever hold he had over her. She came to us sobbing, saying she'd been fooled and used. She offered to pay back every penny, though she had no idea how she'd manage it. My husband was ready to forgive her, but I couldn't. I saw a woman who had repeatedly chosen her own interests over her family's. I convinced my husband that we needed to protect ourselves and his grandfather's wishes. We went through with the legal actions, and it tore the family apart. Now, we're waiting for the court's decision. Jolene is a pariah in the family, and my husband is struggling with guilt and anger. I can't help but feel responsible for pushing him to take a stand. Maybe I should have been more understanding. But how can you forgive someone who's betrayed you so deeply? We're trying to rebuild our lives, but it's hard. The trust is gone, and I'm not sure if it can ever be fully restored. I keep wondering if I made the wrong choice, pushing for justice over family unity. But then I remember the pain and chaos Jolene caused, and I'm convinced I did what was necessary. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.